iRacers Lounge podcast, your source for everything iRacing, including race reviews, driver interviews, opinions, discussions, and much more. Here's your host, Mike Ellis.
Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I am your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Chewy 55, Carlos Fonseca, Kyle Fleischman, Lance Gentles, and special guest Ray Alfala. Hey guys.
Hey, what's up?
Doing good. Well, thanks for coming, and Ray, thanks for joining us here in the lounge. Let's talk about your involvement with iRacing. When did you get started, and how did you hear about iRacing to start with?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. iRacing, I first heard of it probably when it was first in the beta stages back, during NASCAR 2003. I heard about it like 2007 or so, and then I got an invite to the beta tester back around May of 2008, and I've been here ever since. So pretty crazy. It's been over 8 years now.
Yeah, that's certainly like one of the earliest membership dates that you can have, right? And it doesn't get much earlier than that.
Yeah, I think the alpha testers were there since, I think they were there since like 04 or 05 when it was like totally in its infancy. And then the beta testers came in May of 08, and I think it went public just like a couple months after that.
Right. Cool. So how often do you race? We know you race the Peak Antifreeze series, but do you race other series besides that?
Most of what I race is either the Cup car in leagues or in like the A Open or the NIS Open, and it's all mostly in preparation for the Peak series. Usually, if I race something that besides the Cup car, it's usually the truck and like C-Fix or something like that. But during the peak season, a lot of it is just in preparation for those races, whether it's doing races at the same track or a lot of testing with my teammates on Flip Tango NX.
Right. So let's talk about your hardware you use. What kind of wheels and pedals do you have, and like how many monitors?
Yeah, well, it's a triple screen setup with cockpit seat, G27. I have my computer's fairly modern, except for the video card. Video card is a GTX 680, which I've had for like 4 years, so I'll probably be upgrading that fairly soon. Processor is a 4670K i5, so it's about a couple years old. It's really nice. Not like super top of the line, but I still run on most. I'd say mostly high graphics, and it's all really smooth, and most importantly, it's all really comfortable.
How was your transition to DX11 from 9?
Well, originally it was kind of rough. When I first had the option to go to DX11, I was having some stuttering issues here and there. But then I had one race a couple months ago where I was on DX9, and the whole race was just spent like almost in a slideshow. So I said, well, I'm just going to go to DX11 from now on, and it's been good ever since. And I think iRacing is really improving their DX11, and they're going forward with it. And I think we'll see them stop supporting DX9 here in the near future.
Yeah, isn't it set to turn off at the next build, right?
I don't know if it's the next build, but I think next build they might start defaulting to DX11 because they're not confident in it, and it'll probably the support I'd say will probably stop by like year's end.
Right, the next build after that, December. Yep. Okay. And we're going to talk about the Peak Antifreeze a little bit more in detail after these questions, but so let's jump in. Do you have any leagues that you're in besides that, or?
Yeah, I race in the Ask Course Racing League, which runs Sunday nights, and it's broadcast on LSR TV. And it's a league I originally started racing in 2006 on NASCAR 2003. And a lot of the people that race that series are either in the Peak Series. There's a good amount in the Peak Series, and the others were there, back 10 years ago when we were racing on there. And, it was a lot of fun back then, and it's still, still a lot of fun now. It's fixed setups, and we basically mirror the Cup schedule with half-length races. So that's a lot of fun. And that's pretty much the only league I run nowadays with how busy everything is and how much time you got to put into the Peak Series.
Right. All right. And do you use any third-party software when you're running the sim, for dashboards and stuff like that, or?
Yeah. So basically, as you may know, the triple screens kind of doesn't let you see the. Well, it didn't. It was a problem back when we didn't have the digital dashes. You could barely see your gauge and whatnot. So I've been running Dash Meter Pro on a tablet, and well now with the and that was a lot to see, like the oil temperature, water temperature, and things like that. Now I pretty much just use it for like fuel calculations and whatnot because you can see the oil and the water inside the cockpit. But it's still a very useful app.
All right. Any others besides that one, or?
No, that's about
Just
it.
TeamSpeak, obviously.
Yeah, TeamSpeak. But I can't really. I mean, I'm looking around my computer now to see if anything comes to mind. But no, that's pretty much the only thing. The only thing I load.
Okay. And let's talk about that team a little bit, if you can expand on it. And how do they support you? I mean, do you have like a spotter and a crew chief and all that?
Yeah. Well, Slip Angle Motorsports was essentially started by Lisa Pineda, Brian Blackford, and I. Lisa being the main owner, and then Brian and I kind of, were like the I wouldn't say founding fathers, but original members, I guess you could say. I started a couple years ago, and we wanted to have a team to where we could we could take this pretty seriously because we feel serious about sim racing. We've been sim racing for a long time. I've known Brian since probably 2006 or something, or yeah, something like that. Basically met him in the Ascor racing league that I mentioned before. And we always kind of bounced around between teams here and there. We never really had like a organized, I guess, setting. And finally, 2014, we decided to form Slip Angle. And last year we formed an alliance with Index Racing, and they're great group of people, a lot of fun to hang out with, and I think we all make a really good team. And as far as my spotter and crew chief is Stephanie Lessentine, and her job is mostly I don't really ask for a spotter in the sense of letting me know where the car is. I think the in-game spotter does a well enough job of that, and the mirrors and stuff we have is good enough for that. But I just kind of want to know where the crashes are and what kind of strategy people are doing, and probably most importantly is in-car adjustments or pit adjustments. A lot of times I'm too busy to be changing stuff on the keyboard and stuff.
You just have them do it, yeah.
Right.
So and then the setups you're working on throughout the week, that's a joint effort, obviously.
Yep. There's 8 drivers, and several more people that help us test. Joey Brown being a big factor there. He was part of the Peak Series a few years ago, and I think he's coming back next year, so he'll be in the series. And there's guys that know a lot about setups. PJ knows a lot about setups, and he's taught me a lot this season. And I try to contribute as much as I can. Pretty much just this season I started digging into the telemetry side of it, which can be like opening up Pandora's box, but Stuff like that, and a lot of it is testing, and just knowing that a lot of the drivers in the team are able to push the car to the limit. So when you hear somebody's feedback, you know that they're going really fast, and the faster you're going, the more vulnerable your car is to changes and to noticing what you're doing and whatnot. So that's a good part about having really strong teammates, is that when this driver says the car's tight, it's probably not because he's driving it wrong. It's because it's actually tight.
Right. We'd usually talk about the special guest stats. So I brought up your stats page, and incredibly, your winning percentage, which is the one I always look at, overall on oval, 42%, and on road even 32%. But those are some incredible numbers. Your I rating is at 9620. Now, you've had a high I rating for a long time. You obviously win a lot. What do you care about when you go to your stats page? What are you looking at when you go there are you beyond the stats and you're just really focused on the series?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's mostly focused on the series. It would be nice, I guess, to reach the 10,000 I rating. I think I was first one to reach 9,000. And then I remember after I reached 9,000 I rating, the next race, it was an NIS race at Watkins Glen, and I crashed out like lap 2. So I finished dead last in that race, lost like 200 I rating or something. And I think ever since then I haven't been so worried about I rating, because it's so once you get to 8,000, 9,000 I rating, it's so difficult just to gain I rating, and then if you have a bad race or you lose connection or you get crashed or whatever, you're going to lose so much. So, I think right now 9620, I think you said, is like the highest I've ever been at. But so, I kind of look at it after the race. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool, but I don't really hold my breath too much as far as how high that goes or how low that goes. I guess it's mostly a measure of how consistent I'm being overall. But as far as the rest of the stats, yeah, I'm mostly concerned about the peak series, and I know that for example, the average start could be better in my stats, just because there's been a lot of races where I start like last or don't qualify just to practice going through the pack for the peak series and things like that. And I know a lot of the drivers in the series also do that. So at this point we're just kind of focused on the big prize, if you want to call it that.
So a real quick I rating question too. When you go into an official race, and because you're usually a car number of 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that most of the time, you're usually more likely to lose I rating than gain it, right? It's really hard to gain it when you're in that situation.
Right. Yeah. If sometimes if I'll run like a C fixed race at an odd time, to where it's a pretty low strength of field, I'll pretty much lose I rating finishing second, and winning the race will only maybe gain me like 5 or 6. So
right, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, so I mean it's I usually run the high strength of field races just because that's when I'm available to race. It's usually nights, and it's like NIS, where the rest of the field is pretty much practicing for the peak series or trying to make pro or something like that. And it's almost at this point like I'm always in a league race, because I'm always racing against the same people, and I guess that's kind of what iRating is supposed to be, is putting similarly drivers of similar speed together. And I'm pretty sure once you're on iRacing for long enough, eventually you race the same people kind of over and over again.
Yep. All right, the final question in our list: most memorable iRacing moment.
Well, probably either one of the 2 championships. I remember after the 2010 season, which was the first season, and seeing my friend Richard Towler, who taught me a lot about sim racing back in the day, like 10 years ago. And he won his championship, and I went down to Homestead like I pretty much do every year, and I saw him, get the trophy on stage, and I remember thinking to myself, man, that'd be really cool if I could do that one day. And I definitely didn't have it planned necessarily that it would be the following year and the year after that. So that was, that was really cool going up on stage, and I finished second in the last 3 years, so right, very very close, and I'm second this year again to my teammate PJ, who's having a great season, and it's kind of a shame that one of us is going to finish second, considering we're having such good seasons. I think our average finishes are like third and fourth, something like that. So, but yeah, those moments are really cool, and not people say, well, it's because the money and whatnot, but it's just because of how far sim racing has gone to where you can win a championship in a series and actually go up on stage and get prizes and whatnot with the other cup drivers. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think it is so cool that NASCAR acknowledges it, that this is a thing, and they go along with it, kind of, and I love that part of it, and I love that you're able to go to Homestead and get the recognition, and that's so cool, because I think all of us want to be where you're standing when you do that, and we compete in all these different series and try to get up to that level, and it's neat to see somebody do it. So let's talk about the peak. That's actually our next topic. 3 points, boy. I mean, you're right there, and like you said, PJ is right there too, and he's running good. Now we haven't had a race since the Glen. We did talk about that last week already, but I wanted to ask you about the Glen, and what did you think about that last lap with PJ and Conti? And there was a lot of talk after the race on social media about, was it an acceptable move, and that kind of thing. What do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say. All I know is I definitely had my popcorn ready after the race, with everything that went on and on social media with whatnot. Everybody seems to have an opinion, but I mean, only PJ can say whether it was acceptable. I think he got the full blame for the incident. Per our series has an incident review panel, I guess you could say, where you get basically 8 points is the maximum points you can get for a single incident. And points are magnified like in the first 5 laps of a race, last 10 laps of a race, things like that. And if you reach 12 points on that incident system, you get suspended a race. So, PJ racked up 8 right there, but just by one move. But he got the win also. So I think and he knows that. He knows that. It's a risk he took, but it's also another 3 points he took right there. Or actually, I think it was another 4 points he took, which if he hadn't made that move, he'd be second in points right now. So,
right.
It was an important move. I think I don't think he went in there necessarily thinking he was going to hit Conti, but he was trying. He was being really aggressive, and at that point, Conti backed the corner up because he went in there really shallow with old tires, and PJ was already probably trying to think to go in there aggressively, and it kind of adds up to where PJ's on much fresher tires. He goes in there deeper than Conti by default, and he's trying to be aggressive, so he hits him a little bit, and also, I mean, people look at the crash and they think that he just totally sent Michael into the wall, but Michael was trying to keep up his momentum. Michael got hit, and he could have. I mean, he hit the wall because he wanted to keep up speed to make it to the line first. If he would have just not tried to keep up his momentum, he wouldn't have hit the wall, and PJ would have still gotten by, but it wouldn't have looked as bad as it looked. So it was just, two guys going for the win on very different strategies.
From my point of view, just as a fan, I saw nothing wrong with the move at all. Actually, it was good NASCAR racing. It's very similar to what happened at Sonoma with Tony Stewart and Denny Hamlin. Similar situation, last lap, last corner. Like you said, everything comes together, and there's going to be contact, and it was one of those deals, and I think Michael understands that. He probably does.
Yeah. I mean, I think he knew it was maybe coming. Once you take a protective line into a corner, whether it's Watkins Glen or any oval, you're vulnerable because you have to slow down more for the corner, and that. Especially in oval NASCAR racing, once you block, you're kind of saying, well, I guess I can get punted right here. So he probably wasn't too surprised.
All right, cool.
I loved it.
What was that?
So I personally loved it. There's a lot of the times I watch these peak races, and some of them can just kind of get away. Some of these guys they're all at the same level drivers, but sometimes it's the same guys that can just run away with a race, and I don't know, just something about that Glen race really had me pumped up.
Just like in real NASCAR, too, it seems like the road courses are just really drawing the eye lately.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot better if we actually had cautions. I think what makes a road course exciting in NASCAR, especially, is all the restarts and whatnot, and we got lucky the way that the strategy worked out, in that we had like 3 cars racing for the win at the end. That was really cool with PJ going for the 2-stopper and then Nick and Michael on the 1-stopper. But I think it would be way more exciting if it was just kind of like a normal race where you had to make pit stops under yellow or whatnot, and have late race restarts. That'd be really cool.
Let's have a debris caution, and punch them up. Okay, so where do you guys race again next?
We go to Michigan tomorrow, which I think statistically it's one of my worst tracks, and ironically it's one of PJ's worst tracks. So I think we'll still be, we're gonna have good speed. I think our cars are good, and the setups aren't really much different to what we've been running the rest of the season. So I expect to be at least in the top 10, and PJ just always seems to find a little bit extra in the race. Earlier in the season, it was surprising me, because I would outpace him a bit in our testing and practice, and then he'd show up to the race and he'd be right there, even faster. And by now, I'm just used to it. PJ is one of those drivers that he'll excel under pressure. He may not be, he may be lacking a little bit in practice or in testing, but once the race starts, he knows what line to run. He knows, some drivers are better in traffic. Some drivers are better at assessing how fast they need to go, how fast they need to push the car when they're surrounded by their drivers, and they may not necessarily do that when they're alone testing with just a couple cars. So he's really good at stepping up to the plate. And I definitely have my work cut out for me. I've never been in a situation where I was racing a teammate like this for the championship. But either way, it's it's been very exciting, and overall, I'd say our team alliance has. I don't want to say for sure, but we almost have the championship wrapped up. So it's going to be really cool either way.
Yeah, between you both have quite a sizable lead over Jake Sturgio's in third. So, but between the two of you, just 3 points. It certainly is interesting here. We've been watching all year and talking about it on the podcast as you guys have been going through different starts. 12 so far. How many are in the season?
We have 16 races, so we have 4 left.
4 left. All right.
And the last 4, so we just the first 12 races you can drop your worst race, and then after that, like the last 4 races that we're about to run out, you can't drop any. So if you have a bad race, that's too bad.
Right. And that's really the key too. If you have a bad race or a do not start kind of situation, or running 40th or something, that really takes you out of it.
Yeah, and I think I think they did it just because they want to make sure that drivers are on it the last 4 races. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of it necessarily, because it's not really quite a chase. I think if we want to go on to that topic, I actually think a chase would be pretty exciting for our series. A modified version of what the real life chase is. If you want to have 4 races and like 8 drivers, something like that, and have like 4 drivers competing for the championship at Homestead, that'd be probably really fun. And I know I'm saying that as PJ and I have a big lead over everybody else, and it's a lot simpler to beat one person versus 3, but the drop deal, when for example, PJ and I have both had really, really good seasons, and it would kind of suck if we just like lost connection, for example, in one of these last 4 races, and because of the way the rules are, we can't drop those races, but we could have dropped it if it happened like 1 week before. So I'm not really sure if that's the best way to go as far as a competitor. But I'm sure there's always improvements, and they might even be considering a chase. Who knows?
Cool. All right, let's jump down to the next topic. Kyle, what's up next?
Well, next up is the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. They ran at Spa, and Martin Kroenke actually pulled out the win at Spa. And Hutu, we've been following him right along. He ended up pulling out a 4th place finish. So.
And Kroenke extends his point lead on us.
Yep. He's got what's he got? 14-point lead there.
Yeah, that's another battle that's going head to head right there. I think Gregor hasn't seen this much competition, I guess you could say, since Hugo Louis won the championship in 2011. I think Martin was right there last year as well, but not as much as this year. And so yeah, it's gonna be tough for Gregor.
So what do you think, Ray? Is Martin stepped up, or is Hutu just? Is it the new car and the DRS and the track and all that stuff that's changed this year?
It's hard to say. I mean, Gregor, it's really kind of impossible to say whether somebody's gotten faster or somebody's gotten slower. I'm looking here at last year's stats, and Gregor won it over Martin by 40 points, and they both had very similar seasons. So obviously, they both have been on top of their game, the last couple of years.
Yeah, the average
actually
finish.
It was 2014. Gregor only won it by 10 over him. So they've been basically the same speed now for the last few years. So it's not surprising that Martin's up there right now. Yeah.
Average finish 1.8 for Kroenke, 2.8 for Hutu.
Oh yeah, 7 wins to 4 wins. So they're close, and I think they have the same rules. So if the way these races, the start of these races is very important, and I think Gregor was involved in lap 1, turn 1 crash, and he had a good comeback this past week. But of course, Martin winning really stretched out that point lead.
He did. All right, let's move on. NASCAR at Bristol, the NASCAR iRacing Series. Our team runs that. Let's talk about that a little bit. I'll start off. First Monday we ran at Bristol, and I got dumped by a troll, and I'm not going to really talk too much about that, except, hey, pass me. Everybody else can. Wednesday, I finished 23rd. Brad Wren, one of my teammates, he got wrecked in a netcode deal. They were at least 1.5 feet apart. And I got caught up in it. And then, what I also realized is qualifying is big. You got to get on that front stretch. You don't want to be on the back stretch. And I think my teammate Jose, he keeps going down the wrong side of pit road. So we got to figure out a good solution for that.
I think the best solution is just to not run Bristol.
There you go.
That's what I do. I don't touch that track with a 10-foot pole, man. I loved that track back, a few years ago when we could actually run the bottom. But I mean, ever since, because once NASCAR made the changes, we could still run the bottom on iRacing for a few years, and then they made more updates to it, made it more accurate to where now it's just running the high line. It's almost impossible to pass down low. So I really don't like going there. our series doesn't go there anymore, so I pretty much have no reason to race there.
There you go. Thursday night, I was running the voice attack plugin, and it basically turned off my ignition at the green flag, and I got ran over because the car wouldn't go. I was pushing the gas, and it wouldn't go, and it was like, uh-oh. And I look up in the mirror, and yep, they just pile in. So that's another problem. So I finished pretty bad on that day, 23rd. Friday, I got a 9th, a great run. Saturday, I had a horrible run where I had the last pit stall in the front stretch. I think it was 22nd. And for whatever reason, every time I would pull into the pit stall, it wouldn't service me, but only half the time. So sometimes I'd pull in, it wouldn't work. And I'd have to pull out and go back around and try again. I think I eventually figured out if I had to pull in from the outside lane, it would work. If I was cutting in too quickly, it wouldn't work. So I found some kind of bug, I think.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I've never really experienced
If you have that pit stall, I don't know if it was the way I was getting in there or what. And then 13th on Sunday I finished. I'm just really slow, but there was enough attrition for me to get a decent finish. How'd you do, Kyle?
Awful. I came here in the spring and I ran solid, and I was really looking forward to it. Unfortunately, last week at the Glen, I had to take my sim pedals out of service, like we discussed last week. So I think that was my bigger struggle. It's kind of like that old adage, you never know how good you got it until it's gone. And so I had to switch back to my G27 pedals, and it's kind of, for me, it's like playing with toys compared to the real deal. So I really struggled at Bristol. I think it was Thursday night I ran, and the guy starting on the outside pole there in second place, he sent a big brake check through the whole field, and 6 cars behind him, me being the 6th one behind him, we all ended up with blown motors before we even took the green flag on the backstretch.
Oh, that's the 3 motors in one race story, right?
Yep. I ran 34 laps Thursday night, 3 motors. I did a half hour on pit road. I came back out. I think I ran 4 laps, and some guy self-spun right in front of me, and I had a car on my inside coming out of turn 2 and nowhere to go, so T-boned him. Came back out after another motor, and I ended up running another 30 laps, and the race was over. So, and then I ran again last night, and lap 12 got taken out by a blinker. He was getting, we all kept telling him, you're blinking. I don't care, go around me, blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, he kind of warped through my car, and I had a 4X, and I was spun, like, out of control for no reason. So, ended up on the inside wall, blown motor again, and that's basically the story of my week. I think I got 25th last night. That might have been my best finish this week.
All right. Tough week at Bristol. Carlos, how'd you do?
Terrible. Leave it at that.
You want to tell us about it, or?
I don't even know what happened. Oh, let's see. What did I do? I ran 2 races, I think, didn't I? I think I ran
I think you were one and done.
I think I ran the Wednesday Open, and then I ran the Thursday afternoon Open. See, the first one, I finished 18th out of like 23 cars, so not too great of a finish. No, there wasn't that many cars in that split for some reason. Ended up wrecking. I don't remember why. Oh, someone just turned somebody in front of me and just came back up the track, and of course I run into them and get no yellow. 20 cars spun, no yellow. So I don't understand it. I don't know. Second race that I did, much better. I was running probably a top 5 the entire race, but I don't know. I went down the wrong pit road with like 20 to go. So, yeah, I had to go in the longest line. Of course, I got caught speeding, so I had to go behind all the lap cars. So everything just went to hell at the end of that race, and somehow got back to 9th. And I ended up
top 10.
Yeah, and it ended up DQing somebody. It was on accident, but I was getting hit like 8 times before we even took the green. for the last restart. Some guy just kept running into me, gave me a 4X, which punted me into the guy in front of me, and he got DQ'd.
Well, at least he DQ'd before he wrecked you. Totally.
Well, I was one more 4X. I was going to get DQ'd. I should have only had I could have had a buffer, 8X, 8 incidents, but nope. Some guy had to run me over like 3 times. He wanted to go, but thing was, he was like 80 laps down. I don't understand people.
It'd honestly be the only reason why I'd want to run up there with Ray and them is because there seems to be a little more patience on the track with them pro licenses.
It can be scary in some of these splits.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Oh yeah, top splits are terrible sometimes.
Yeah, we can wreck like the best of them.
Okay, Lance, you're coming off a win at the Glen. How'd you do at Bristol?
Bristol wasn't, like I said last week, I was going to take all that iRating I earned at the Glen and throw it all in the trash. Wound up running in the top 10 solid every night, most of the time in the top 5. And finished, out of the 3 races I ran, I finished 12th, 22nd, and 22nd again.
Ouch. So, wasn't too kind to you. I mean, 12th isn't bad, I guess.
No, after that that disaster of a race, I took 12, put it in my pocket, called it a win, and took my ball and went home.
Yeah, see, other teammates, Brad Wren, he ran Wednesday, and like I said, got wrecked right away in a netcode incident. I don't think we saw him the rest of the week. Jose had mixed results, I think.
Yeah, Jose was another one that was running solid top 5s, top 10s, and just
bad luck at the end, yeah.
Bad
except
luck
for
at
that.
some clown.
Except for the one where he kept going down the wrong pit lane.
Yeah, and he'd kill himself doing that, so.
Side note, hey, Kyle, if you wrap those birds in a piece of bacon, I hear they don't taste too bad.
All right, Lance, what's the next topic?
Oh, God, lost my spot on the paper. We've got the error with multi-car selection. They're working to address it. That's basically the gist of this report.
Yeah, they got a release for that. And then they also, well, I guess, Kyle, what's up next?
They're releasing the preliminary Season 4 schedule.
Yeah, I took a look at it, but I don't really run anything besides NIS. And so it doesn't really apply to me.
Right, that's kind of my deal with it as well.
I don't know. I didn't really look at the schedule. I've been running a lot of that Proto GT. I ran like 4 races this week.
Well, we want to announce it, tell people it's out there, if you're interested, go check it out.
You gonna run that endurance series again, Carlos?
A bumping?
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how comfortable I get with that. The Audi.
Oh, okay.
I've only finished 1 out of 8 races with that car.
So talking about road racing, they announced the iRacing Italian Grand Prix takes place this weekend. And there's going to be 4 different starts available.
So is that in Formula 1 at Monza?
Yes, the McLaren MP430 at Monza.
Also known as the European Talladega.
There you go.
That's about the gist of it.
Now, what configuration at Monza is my question.
I'd say probably just the Grand Prix.
The Grand Prix one, yeah. So I will not be racing this one. I don't even own that car.
It's a handful.
All right, next topic. There was a thread in the forum. David Cater was asking some questions about how do I make pro again? And so we revisited this topic that iRacing put out in the spring about a series that they're going to start called the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series. It's It's going to run late October through January. You have to be a Class A only to participate. There's going to be fields of 43 cars. Grids will be split by qualifying speed. The grid in each split will be determined by qualifying speed. Splits will be determined by iRating. Qualifying session will be attached to the race session. And it runs once a week on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Top 10 finishers will be considered for a pro license and entry into NPAS. Positions 11 through 20 will be considered for a pro license and entry into NPAS. So, Ray, do you know about this, and do you have any more information?
Well, as much information I think as everybody else has. I think they just simplified it. Basically, before you had to, it was harder to explain how to make to the series where you had to finish top 10 in one of the first 3 Class A seasons and whatnot. I think now it's just, it happens during season 4. I mean, essentially it's the same pro series we've always had as far as, 1 race a week for 10 races, I think it is. Except that now it's just, it just goes by splits, just like any other, like World Tour, or, any other official race. I guess you could say you just sign up for it. You have an A license, you sign up for it, and you race in your split. And it's only, it's only one time slot per week. So I think, Pro Series is one of the funnest parts about the off season, just sitting there and watching and kind of hoping you never have to be a part of it.
Well, I saw this, and from my point of view, I'm not anybody who's ever going to be even close to getting to pro, as well as most of us on our team. But I look at this series, and I'm like, wow, this is a good thing for us to race. It's as a NASCAR iRacing series alternative, that series will be over. We need a place to race. Why not go race in this? Like you said, it's open to anybody with an A license. They're going to run NASCAR style schedule, 43 cars. Why not? So I think that me and my team were talking about actually running this, even though we're not going to be in that top 20 probably. We're just going to run it, and I hope other NIS drivers do too. And we kind of use it as a winter series.
Yeah, I'm probably going to run a lot of road during the off season. Try to get better at that.
How's that all work with the Peak Series, though? You qualify for it, and then with the Peak...
Well, at the end, it's the top 20 in points.
Yeah. Essentially, the top 10 in points gets a World Championship license, which it locks you in to the races, and then the next 20 gets a pro license, which means it allows you to qualify in for the races, and the top 3 in times of those 10 will make it.
Oh, okay, I see. So there's still people that can have a pro license that don't make the field.
Yep. If we have full turnout, there should be 70 in queues every race.
Right.
Wow.
Well, so what do you think, Kyle? You think you want to run this with me? Just for fun?
I'll give it a whirl just for fun. I know I'm not up there with those guys, but I'll give it a whirl.
That's what I mean, is if we can get all the NASCAR iRacing series people to run this could be a really cool series, especially you get high strength of fields and lots of participation.
Not to mention, you could also see just where you do compare to the rest of these pro guys.
Well, they'll be in a different split.
You never know, you might be racing against that guy.
Hey, it might not show up, yeah, we'll see.
I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be, a lot of people signing up for each race.
Yeah, I plan on it, so we'll see how it goes. I'm encouraging my teammates to join me. So that's called the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Watch for that, late October. Let's move on down the list. Lance, what's next?
Oh, we got the Byron story. Byron was signed by Hendrick.
Wow, we were just talking about him last week. So William Byron gets signed And, he was with Kyle Busch, but now he's with Hendrick. You think Kyle's mad about that?
No. I don't know if you caught it during the Bristol rain out Saturday, was it? When they rained out the race? And they did an interview on TV with Mr. Hendrick, and Byron was there. And Mr. Hendrick and Kyle Busch actually sat down, talked about it, and they decided that, that was the better place for him. And Hendrick even said he went and talked to Gibbs about it, and they all kind of agreed to put him into Hendrick's program, and he's going to be in a junior motorsports car next year.
I think that was more based on the future. Gibbs is just packed. There's no other place for him to go.
Right.
So he's thinking about where would I end up if I go to Gibbs? Probably nowhere, unless Furniture Rose turns into like a 4-car team. But
that's exactly what Mr. Hendrick was saying. Actually, was Gibbs didn't have a spot for him, so that's why he ended up over at Hendricks. Basically, was because Hendricks does have a spot for him. And didn't I hear something about Furniture Row putting a second car in next year?
Yeah, for Eric Jones.
Yeah. Furniture Row is just Gibbs. People. The TV people keep saying that it's a small team and it's like it's just a satellite, but they're full blown Gibbs cars.
Yeah, I call it Joe Gibbs West.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the drivers consider Truex a teammate because they all have the same setup, so it's a Gibbs team.
Yeah, it's like Stuart Haas. It's the same kind of thing. Satellite team.
Yeah, whenever they limited the amount of teams that that could be under one flag, you knew that was going to happen.
Oh yeah. Well, it's good to see an iRacer get an opportunity in real racing. We always try to document these things, and it looks like William Byron's on the fast track, boys. So we'll see him in Cup before long.
Yeah, hopefully he's not just a phenom and burn out like Casey Atwood did.
Yeah, I also saw an article actually just today about how he put a lot of his what's the word I'm looking for? He put a lot towards iRacing and really grooming him for this.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on. Kyle, what's next?
Well, next we're going into hardware, I guess. So another set of virtual reality goggles.
Yeah, Intel has announced Project Alloy. And what's neat about this, as I was reading about it, is it's wireless. There's no HDMI to run to your headset. So it's a VR headset that's wireless. That's the way I understand it. So, and it's going to be similar to Oculus Rift and so forth.
That's the problem I found with the Vive. You're connected with the tether, and that's it. In a seating position, that's not so bad. But when you get up and move around, which really doesn't apply to us because who has time for any other games?
Right. So anyway, that's, I think it's good for iRacers that other companies are getting involved here. This is a big update, that somebody else is really joining the fray, so to speak. It's going to drive prices down when there's competition. So.
Absolutely, and you're looking at a lot of these new headsets that are running the same open source hardware that the Vive and other headsets of that nature are running. So they all should be compatible.
Right. Okay, next topic. Michael Main from Main Performance PC has 2 sets of hydraulic sim pedals left in existence for sale. So he's really clearing them out because he's working on a new version of them. So if you're interested, check it out. He's got a post on the forums about it.
Get these pedals.
I have them. I love them. Brad Wren has them. Kyle has them.
I just shipped my brake to go get warranty work on it, but I highly recommend them.
Okay, Lance, could you pick up the next one?
Sure, what do we got? Full CXC simulations, full motion replica simulator DIY kit.
Yeah, I saw this on eBay, and it's like CXC Simulations is a motion cockpit, people, and it's fully loaded. Everything you need in this package, $10,000. You can buy it right now on eBay.
Let me go place my bid.
So if you want to get into iRacing and you just want to buy everything at once, and you have 10 grand, this might be a good price. I don't know.
Time to go win the peak championship.
10 grand. What do you say?
Is that a flight stick?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a pretty nice looking setup. So.
Oh, could you race with that, Carlos? Because you use a paddle now, right?
Do what?
You use a controller now. You think you could race with a flight stick?
No, I tried that. They have way too big of a dead zone.
Oh, okay.
All right, next up is you can design your 80/20 racing rig with Frame Designer. And we saw this article over at bsimracing.com, which basically pointed to another website called frameexpert.com, where there's a little download now software frame designer program where you can literally put the 80/20 pieces together in a virtual sense and figure out what your parts list is. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, 80/20 rigs have been around for quite a while. I know, I can never remember his name, Botmuller. A couple of guys that are deep into iRacing and have always come up with some pretty innovative and neat 80/20 rig designs.
If I was starting over on a rig, I would be looking at 80/20. I think that's where I would go if I was starting over.
I built my first one out of PVC, and then I moved 1,200 miles, so I couldn't take it with me, and I got the Abuto after that. A home-built rig is nice, but there's something about these manufactured ones that the swivel keyboards and everything, the stuff that you really have trouble building with a home-built system.
That's true. I mean, I probably couldn't do without my swivel keyboard. That's not something you can really build on 80/20 that I know of.
You could get it done with the right parts, but it wouldn't be the same as something that's pre-engineered.
Right. So yeah, if you're doing 80/20, check out frameexpert.com. I'll jump on the next topic because this is something I've been testing. Digital Race Engineer is a plugin for voice attack. And I mentioned it briefly earlier, but on Thursday in the NIS race at Bristol, when I went to green flag at the start, the ignition turned off. And I did some testing by turning off my button box and voice attack and different things at different times. And I've narrowed it down. It was voice attack in this plugin that turned off my ignition. Not once, but I think 6 different times during that race. The ignition turned off on me in the middle while I was trying to race, and it was a horrible experience. So I'm back to square one with this software. I don't trust it. I didn't run it the rest of the week. I might run it tonight at the league race. I'm thinking it might have to do with Bristol and how fast those laps are, and it just got behind or something on all the different things that plugin does. So I'm thinking it has something to do with that, but I might try it again tonight and see if I can sort it out.
Hell, the default voice attack will do that if it has a command. Because I've done that before. That's why I deleted
maybe
it.
have something to say with your saying, maybe in team chat or something, and it's conflicting with it.
There's sometimes I just said something random and it made a command, initiate.
Yeah, it definitely had problems there. So, I've been trying this for several weeks. We'll keep trying. I think it has good potential. Digital Race Engineer.
Well, I'll just try to find that command and get rid of it for the ignition.
Yeah, and that might be the answer. Just disable that one command. So Kyle, what's next?
Oh, the jet seat.
The what?
What is it? The Game Tricks KW908 jet seat. The cheap alternative to the GS4.
Yeah, so I ran across this in one of these forum threads, and yeah, that's what I ask. Is this a cheap alternative to the GS4? Now, we talked about the GS4 last week. That's a seat with the hydraulic flaps in it that kind of push against your body. Well, this is a little bit different. This is what looks like a massage chair cover. Like you buy one of those cheap things at Walmart that has little massage things in it that you can set on an office chair and it rubs your back and your butt. That's what it looks like. It's $195 and it plugs into your USB cable, and the little massage motors kind of move to the, force feedback, so to speak.
So it's mimicking what a butt kicker does.
Right. Kind of like a butt kicker. Yes. And some of the people who have used it, were raving about it, and anyway, something new out there we thought we would tell you about. It's called a jet seat.
Anything that tells your body that you're getting some kind of feedback, as long as it stimulates the right portions of the brain, it's gonna work for some people.
Right. So you can find this on the forums. If you search tactile base system and look within that thread, you'll find some links that refer to this product, but kind of cool. Lance, what's next?
Looks like we have another DIY project.
Yes.
Wind simulator.
It actually does look kind of neat.
I got a ceiling fan. Pass.
I actually have a 8-inch office fan that has the clips to it that you can clip to your desk. I have one on each side, and they're clipped to my up post for my monitor mount on my Obutto rig. So I don't really need it, but it's cool that somebody thought about that.
Well, what you do is you take those fans and you hook them to your speedometer, and the faster you go, the faster your fans go. That's what this is. So
I think that'd be cool for open wheelers.
Imagine the steering wheel mount, and your steering wheel is sitting there. He's got two 6-inch fans mounted right above the steering wheel that blow basically in his face. And it's a VR rig, so there's no screens per se. So you just got this wind blowing, and it basically shows how to wire it up so you can hook it up to your speedometer, so to speak.
It's an interesting concept, but I think with a helmet, that kind of negates most of that.
Well, interesting. I've seen wind projects like this before. This one's a little bit different because it's kind of a VR cockpit. There's no monitors.
Yeah, it's ducted fans, so you're going to get a pretty significant blast. My thought would be that would get irritating to the eyes over the course of a couple hours.
Just close your eyes.
Well, remember, if you're wearing Oculus Rift goggles, though.
Oh, true enough.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so if you want to look that up, search DIY Wind Simulator. He actually has a video somewhere in here, too, of it running. It looks pretty cool. Final topic tonight. We're right at an hour, so perfect timing. It has been put out this week that iRacing will expand their VR support to include the HTC Vive in their September update.
As soon as that support is launched, I'll have a full report on it. I've got a friend that's got one, and he's agreed to let me bring it and test it out on my rig.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear about that. Jose, our teammate Jose Pabon, is interested in purchasing VR goggles, and we've been discussing offline which ones that he should get. And he's still on the fence about which ones to get, but he obviously has options now. So
currently, if you're going to get something and you wanted to use it outside of a seated position, the Vive is really the only way to go. With the two little hand controllers, they're fantastic. You've got they call it the chaperone system that tells you where obstacles are in your room. That you can see the hand controllers, you get feedback, and it's true to life. You know exactly where they are in relation to yourself.
right. And I was telling him, hey, you might just want to wait for Oculus to put out their next version. You know, obviously they're going to put out something, right?
They've got to compete with the Vive. They've got to get some hand controllers compatible with their device. Otherwise, the Vive is just going to walk off and leave them. That was the innovation that I think that the Oculus was missing, was those two little grips.
Right. And then now we have this Intel version coming out with their offerings. So, Ray, have you tried any VR? What do you think of it?
Yeah, I've tried like the second development kit from the Oculus, and I mean I think it's pretty cool. I'm not really going to go in the route of any VR for at least a few years until they get everything figured out and have really high resolution. But I think one of the biggest things is the immersion factor, especially in the open wheel stuff. I tested it at Laguna Seca, and going down the corkscrew, it actually felt like you were going downhill, which is pretty crazy. So I don't know how it would work as far as how would you hit the keyboard or things like that. I guess you don't necessarily have to hit a keyboard if you map all the buttons on your wheel and you know where everything is. But yeah, I think that could be the future where, say 10 years from now everybody has VR and we're thinking back of monitors as like a distant memory.
Oh, eventually it'll head that way. And I've done the same thing. I've run it was in Project Cars, but I took the corkscrew at Laguna Seca, and I tell you what, you really feel like you're going through there. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I tell you, if you've got any issues with vertigo, if you tend to get dizzy, VR is not for you. Not at all.
So I actually have problems on roller coasters these days as I'm getting older. I used to not have that problem, but I do now. So you think I'd have a problem with it?
Well, yeah, and you're a crotchety old man, so yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get into final thoughts. Let's start with you, Ray. Thanks for coming on the show and talking about your championship. You're 3 points out and 4 races to go, and boy, that's exciting. I think I'll definitely be tuning in. So, but thanks for coming on. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll do more of these if you guys will have me in the future. Maybe after the season, see how things go, and yeah, it should be exciting. Be sure to tune in tomorrow at Michigan, and then I think we have 3 weeks off after that because of the build. But we go back to Darlington and then New Hampshire and Homestead, so that should be fun. And either way, I think it'll be either PJ or me winning the championship, and either result is good for us because it's we're all teammates and we're all good friends. So thanks a lot for having me on, and I look forward to next time.
Well, we do have a reputation of when guests come on, they usually run really good after being on the show. So hopefully that extends on to you. Good luck. We'll be watching, and you're certainly welcome back anytime.
Thanks. Yeah, I need it. Michigan's not one of my best tracks, so that'll be pretty cool. If I end up in Victory Lane, I'll give you guys a shout out.
All right, cool. Kyle, final thoughts?
Oh, not too much. Just can't wait for my sim pedals to be back in service. And Michigan this week, so hopefully it's not so much of a brake-dependent track, so hopefully I'll do a little bit better. I guess that's about it.
All right. Carlos, final thoughts.
Yeah, I got none. Oh, actually, probably gonna run a lot of Xfinity this week because of Road America. And I don't know, usually do well there, so hopefully I can get all the iRating. I lost last week back, so yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, Lance, Gentles, final thoughts.
Yeah, glad to be leaving Bristol in the rearview mirror. Looking forward to heading to Michigan. I tend to have decent runs there. Not great, but decent.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to leave Bristol as well. I'm slow as can be there. It was a very humbling experience being one of the slowest drivers out there, but somehow managed to survive and get some decent finishes, in some of these races. So happy about that. Happy to move on to Michigan, and excited about this Pro Series we were talking about coming up late October. I'm always looking for something to run in the off season to mimic the NIS series, and this might be it. So we'll see. So with that, we'll see you later.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast. Make sure to go subscribe to us at our YouTube channel at iRacers Lounge. Follow on Twitter and Facebook at iRacers Lounge and SoundCloud at iRacers Lounge. See you on the track.